So here I've got my tomato seedlings that came from one little red piccolo tomato like that. So just chop that in half, and all the little seeds were put into this little old yogurt carton with a few drainage holes in the bottom, and that's produced all those seedlings. So we're now going to transplant those into some bigger pots, so hopefully they'll grow on, because they're a little bit, I think they've probably got to as far as they're going to get in this little pot at the moment, because there are rather too many in there now. So we're going to try and transplant them on into some bigger pots. These sort of pots are about ideal. They're probably about 3" or 75mm across the top, and about 10 centimetres deep, maybe, something like that. What I'm going to do is I've actually going to put moist compost into the pots, because then it'll be easier when I start putting a little hole in to put the seedlings in. The soil will hold together a little bit better, the compost in the pot, when I plant them. I'll show you that in 1 second. So now we're just going to carefully get these little seedlings out of here. What we can do is I'm just going to sort of gently squeeze the sides of it. There's a little bit of gravel in the bottom of this pot. I can just feel it now. I've forgotten I've done that. So I'm just going to pull that out like that. And there we are. There's a bit of gravel in the bottom. We'll just get rid of that. We don't need that anymore. And the bottom one of those pots won't do any harm. So there they are. They're all the little roots. So little tiny roots. So they're not going to do very much with those little piddly things at the moment. But we'll prise those apart gently. Just going to sort of tweak them apart with my fingers, just like that. And then just going to pull them apart, just gently, gently, gently. There's a little bit of root on there. Hopefully, doing this very well. A bit difficult when you're trying to operate the camera. And a little bit, but there's my, there it is. There's my little plant. That's all very long root on it. I'm going to sort of just tweak that root off slightly with my finger and thumb. Just take a little bit off, because we don't need all that. Now we're just going to put that into our little pot. I'm going to bother to put the gravel in the bottom of this for drainage this time, but I'll just put it to the compost, because these tomato plants are quite resilient. So here we are again. This is our group of little seedlings. So I'm just going to split a little core of those off, just a few of them off, and then I'm just going to carefully with my finger and thumb just gently just pull them away like that. You've got a little bit of root on there. There's a little bit of root. There's the top. There's a little bit of root. There's also all these little bits up here, little furry bits up the stem, are also rich. You can't see it so clearly on these, but you'll see it on some of the other tomato plants that I'm planting. And sometimes I just tweak a little bit of the root off like that. Just take a little bit off, pinch it up with your finger and thumb, and then dip a little hole with your pen in there. So using a nice moist compost, so it holds the compost together. So you pop it in there, pop it in quite deep, because all those little finer bits there, the little stem, will have the little roots come off there and make it a little bit less leggy. Don't put it too deep in the pot though, because you could do with about 25mm in the pot. This is not a very big pot, but you could do with ideally about 25mm in the bottom of the pot, just to let the roots really get going. But hopefully this will encourage these little plantlets to grow on a bit more quickly. You probably can't see this clearly on this little plant, but there's lots and lots of little tiny sticky bits on there going up the stem. So what we're going to do is we're going to plant this stem actually quite deep into the pot, leaving a little bit of extra pot, about 25 mil or so in the bottom of the pot. So I'm just going to pop that in with, I'm going to use a pen just to make a hole. One I prepared earlier. I'm just going to make a little indent into the pot. So this is where I use the damp compost, because then it holds together. So I just made that little indent into the pot with my pen, and I'm just going to put that in there carefully. Don't worry too much about the roots, they're very clever. As I say, I'm going to plant this quite deep, so as you can see that. So there's a lot of that stem is actually in the compost, and it'll stop them getting too leggy and straggly. Just going to gently press that down with my fingers, simple as that. And then what I tend to do with these is I tend to pop them onto a tray which has got a little bit of 10mm gravel on it in the greenhouse, and then they can water from underneath. I'll probably just water these from the top now just to give them a bit of a start, but the compost is already quite wet, so hopefully that should go on fine. So I'll just continue the process. Just show you that again. Hopefully get a little bit closer this time. So just pull this in a bit if I can. Whoop, wrong way. So we've now got our little pot full of compost. We'll have to about a centimetre at the top there. Just going to put a little hole in it with our little pen. Just whittle it around a bit. Get about a centimetre or so of hole, and then we're just going to drop another seed in. Yeah, it's got quite a nice little root structure on that one. So we're just going to pop that into our hole. I'm going to put it in quite deep. You can use the your pen or a dibber if you've got one, something like that, just to push the root right down. Bury these tomato seedlings quite deep, and then it'll stop them going too leggy. Yeah. And hopefully in about late July, August, you'll be getting something looking like this in your greenhouse. And that's a piccolo tomato, and should be good and tasty. Don't forget to share the seedlings with your friends, because I've potted on probably 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14 different seedlings now, which will be far too many for my little tiny greenhouse. So just pass them on to your friends. We've still got about another 30 or so little seedlings to plant up, which is basically all that little lot there. So all those, plus all the extras you saw earlier on, have come from just one cherry piccolo tomato that I cut up and used the seeds in ordinary bog standard multi-purpose compost. Voila.